Rates. Settle yourself beneath the heavy felt of the yurt. The night air clings cold and damp against the hides that stretch over its wooden frame. Rates. And you pull the woolen blanket closer to your shoulders. Outside, the wind prowls over the grasslands, combing the endless steppe in long, unseen strokes. It rattles faintly at the lattice walls, but within, the air smells of smoke and horsehide, warm from the small brazier at the center. A single strip of mutton fat burns in the flame, giving off a faint crackle and the tang of meat. You breathe it in, letting the familiarity soothe you. You are 17 years old, and though your shoulders ache from training, your body still carries the restless twitch of youth. For the first time, you wear the badge of a sworn horseman. The older warriors call you Tarjan, a boy still, yet marked by the promise of manhood. Tomorrow you will ride again with the others, drilling with bow and horse. But tonight the elders have told you to rest. The grasslands here, this great plain the Romans call Pannonia, stretch farther than sight. By day, they roll in pale waves silver with feather, grass. By night, they vanish beneath the sky's dark ocean, where stars pool like spilled milk. The ground beneath you is hard, packed earth and dry roots. Horses graze just beyond the ring of yurts, their soft grunts and snorts drifting on the air. The sound steadies you. Horses have always steadied you. Your world is one of movement. Nothing here is fixed except the horizon itself. The yurts are bound with leather thongs, raised and lowered as easily as a tent. Saddles, bows, quivers, everything must travel. The meat you eat is pressed raw beneath the saddle, flaps on long rides, warmed and tenderized by sweat and the motion of the horse. Milk is left to sour in skin bags until it becomes the sharp, intoxicating drink of the riders. Nothing lingers, everything is meant to be carried. You know this, because it is the only life you have known, And yet, tonight something lingers. A hum you cannot name, a waiting. The elders spoke of it earlier as they hunched around the brazier, voices low, their words half lost in the hiss of smoke. You heard only fragments tribute, gold and names you had only just begun to understand. Attila, Bleda, the sons of Munzok. They had gathered the tribes, the voices said. The clans that once fought over pastureland now ride under a single banner, two brothers binding the people together. You had never seen them, not yet, but their names carried weight even among boys, You think of the bronze scales the Romans send each year, weighed down with solidity. Bright coins stamped with the heads of emperors, The adults say the emperors pay to keep peace, but the word tribute hangs sharp in the air, like the string of a bow drawn tight, You do not yet understand the full meaning, only that the world beyond the grasslands fears the riders of your people. That fear buys food, weapons, and iron in exchange for silence. You draw your blanket closer. The wool smells faintly of the mare whose hide once sheltered it. The fire sputters, and your mother shifts in her sleep on the opposite side of the yurt. Her breath is steady, her face turned toward the earth. You notice the lines at her brow even in the dim firelight, lines carved by years of waiting for men to return from raids, for news of the clan's fate. Your father's bow rests across the entrance pole, its horn tips catching the firelight. You know how heavy it feels, how the bone and sinew resist until they yield with a snap of power. You have felt it in your own hands now, though never yet in battle. Outside, the horses stir, their hooves thudding softly against the ground. A foal nickers, searching for its mother, and the low answering whicker reaches your ears. The smell of dung and trampled grass drifts into the yurt, blending with the smoke. These scents, pungent and close, are as much a part of you as your own skin. Sleep does not come easily. Perhaps it is the whispers of the elders, Perhaps it is the knowledge that your life has shifted. You are no longer a child tending goats or following the herds. You are sworn, bound by oath and by the blood, prick cut into your palm during the ceremony. Your hand still bears the faint scab, a dark line across the crease, You think of the oath to ride where ordered, to fight without fear, to give your life for the Khan if need be, The words seem distant when first spoken, but tonight they press close, filling the yurt until the air itself feels heavy. Your mind wanders to the rivers, the Danube, wide and swift, where the Romans build their stone cities. You have never seen them, Brates, but stories spill like water from the mouths of men who return. They speak of walls so high a horse cannot see the top, of streets paved with stone, Brates, of markets where bread costs more than a herd of sheep. Some of the men laugh when they tell it, others spit. But all of them carry the glint of hunger in their eyes. It is not hunger for food, but for something else, a power, gold, glory. You are not sure which. A sudden gust presses against the yurt, rattling the felt. For a moment, it sounds like distant hooves pounding the plains. Your heart leaps, then steadies again as silence returns. Only the crackle of the brazier remains. You lie back, Brates, staring upward where the smoke curls through the hole in the roof. Beyond it, the stars glimmer coldly. Each night they seem sharper, Brates, as if the steppe sky holds fewer veils than other places. You wonder if the same stars shine over the Roman cities, Brates, or if theirs are dimmed by smoke and stone. You wonder if the men there look upward and think of you, a nameless boy on a plain too vast to imagine, Brates. The thought makes you smile faintly, even as your body drifts toward rest. You know nothing yet of war or conquest, only the smell of leather, Brates, the weight of the bow, the warmth of the mare's flank, and yet, in your chest, something stirs, a pull, Brates, as if the plain itself is shifting beneath you. Tomorrow, perhaps, the elders will speak again of Attila. Perhaps you will see him with your own eyes, Brates, or perhaps not. For now all you can do is breathe, and wait, and let the quiet vastness of the steppe hold you in its embrace. The fire burns lower, Brates. The yurt creaks with the wind. You close your eyes, and in that moment, you feel the hush of a world just before it changes, Brates. The morning begins in silence, the kind that lies heavy across the steppe before the herds stir, Brates. You wake to the smell of damp grass pressed against horsehide, the yurt's felt walls darkened by dew. Outside, the plain is pale with early light, Brates. The horizon blurring into mist. You rise stiffly, brushing dust from your tunic, and step into the air that bites your skin with its chill, Brates. Horses stand tethered in a loose ring, manes lifting in the faint breeze. Beyond them, men gather. Their voices are low, cautious, Brates. A messenger arrived in the night, carrying word from the Danube. You heard nothing. Only the muted thud of hooves and the hush of greetings carried on the wind. But now the camp leans in, listening. You draw closer, Brates, careful not to intrude. The elders stand at the center, their cloaks pulled tight, their bows slung across their backs, Brates. The messenger's horse still heaves, sides slick with sweat, foam crusting its bit. Dust clings to the rider's beard. His voice is hoarse, yet the words fall heavy. Gold, he says. The Romans have sent gold. The men murmur. The messenger holds up a leather pouch, swollen with coins. The sunlight catches the stamped profile of an emperor. Theodosius, perhaps, though you cannot be sure. The image is strange, Brates. A man's face frozen in metal, crowned and stern. The pouch is heavy, and the men pass it from hand to hand, weighing it in their palms. It is tribute, you realize. Payment for silence. The Eastern Romans, desperate to keep the riders from crossing their borders, Brates, send wealth year after year. But this time, the sum is larger. The messenger says it has doubled, 200 pounds of gold each year, Brates. You hear the numbers whispered, 200 pounds. Enough to feed thousands. Enough to forge weapons for armies, Brates. Enough to bind the tribes in expectation. The elders nod, but there is unease in their faces. The Romans pay because they fear. Yet each coin also binds your people closer to their power. Tribute can be peace, but it can also be a chain. And chains, the elders say, are never worn for long. You feel the stir in your chest again, the hum you sensed last night. It is here, Brates, alive in the words carried across the plain. Later, you train. The bow sits firm in your hand, the horn tips gleaming in the sun, Brates. You guide your horse with knees alone, loosing shafts at the straw targets set in the grass. The arrows fly quick and flat, Brates. The composite bow bending with a strength far greater than its size suggests. Your shoulders ache after a dozen shots, but pride steadies your aim, Brates. Around you, other boys train the same way, their shouts carried on the wind. The elders watch. They say little, but their eyes weigh each rider. The Romans build walls of stone, but your people build warriors of bone and sinew. Every rider must be both man and mount, fused into one body. Rates. The horse is your shield, your bow your reach. Without them, you are nothing. After training, you ride out with your cousin Torda to water the herd. Rates. The grass parts in long ripples as hooves drum beneath you, and the air smells sharp with river silt. You find the stream swollen with spring melt. Rates. Its surface flashing silver. You let the horses drink, your legs dangling loose against their flanks. Torda spits into the water, then leans close. Rates. Do you think we will ride south? His voice is edged with eagerness. You do not answer at first. The thought of the Danube rises in your mind. Rates. Of the Roman cities crouched behind their walls. You have never seen them, only heard tales. The idea of crossing into that world feels unreal. Rates. Like stepping into a dream you cannot wake from. Perhaps, you say at last. Torda grins, eyes bright. If the Romans send gold now. Rates. Imagine what they will send when our Khan demands more. Perhaps silver, horses, women. Rates. Perhaps their cities will open to us like granaries. You do not answer. His hunger is not yours, not yet. Rates. But his words linger as you watch the water curl around the hooves of your horse. That evening, the camp gathers. Fires burn in a wide circle. Rates. Sparks rising into the night. The elders speak more freely now. They tell of the brothers Attila and Bleda, sons of Munzuk. Together they rule. Rates. Binding tribes that once bickered and split. Under them, the Huns are no longer scattered riders, but a storm gathering its strength. Rates. The tribute gold is not the end, they say. It is only the beginning. You sit with the younger men, your blanket wrapped tight against the night chill. Rates. The fire's smoke stings your eyes, its smell heavy in your hair. Across the flames, older warriors speak of raids past. Towns burned. Rates. Captives taken, rivers crossed. Their voices are calm, almost casual, as if recounting a day's work. Yet beneath their words lies something deeper. Rates. A pulse you cannot ignore. The spark has caught. You feel it in their tones, in the way the firelight dances across their faces. Rates. The world beyond the plain is stirring, and with it your own heart. When you lie down again, the stars burn hard above you. Rates. You think of the pouch of coins, of the emperor's stamped face, of the river waiting in the south. Sleep drifts slowly, but when it comes. Rates. It carries with it the image of hooves pounding not across grass, but across stone streets. The waiting is over. Something has begun. Rates. The next days pass in a restless rhythm. Horses are tended, arrows fletched, yurts shifted to fresher pasture. The air is warming with spring. Rates. Though the wind still carries a bite. At dawn, frost lingers on the grass, glittering until the sun burns it away. Life seems unchanged on the surface, yet a tension threads through every task. You feel it when sharpening your arrows. Rates. The rasp of flint against wood steady in your hand. You feel it in the way men linger longer at the fires. Rates. Speaking of Romans as if their shadows already stretched across the plain. You feel it in your chest, a pull between excitement and unease. At night. Rates. Your mother speaks little. She moves quietly around the yurt, her hands busy with leather thongs, her gaze fixed on her work. Rates. But when the fire burns low and the camp grows still, she sits across from you, the glow catching the furrows of her face. You are sworn now, she says softly. It cannot be undone. You nod. The words are simple yet heavy. Her eyes rest on your bow, propped beside your bedding. Your father rode south once. Before you were born. He returned with scars I could not see, only feel. He would wake in the night reaching for a weapon. He never spoke of what he saw. You shift uneasily. You have heard stories, villages burned, captives taken, walls stormed, but hearing it from her lips is different. The Danube is not the plain, she continues. Rates. The Romans build in stone. Their walls are taller than a man's courage. Their arrows fall like rain. Rates. Do not think it will be like hunting deer. You swallow, staring into the coals. The smell of smoke stings your nose, mingled with the faint tang of horsehide. She is right, perhaps. But her words rub against the pride in your chest, the oath you carry. I will not ride alone, you murmur. Her gaze lingers. No one does, and still, many do not return. The silence stretches. Outside. Rates. A horse stamps, its hoof thudding against earth. She reaches for a pouch at her side and sets it before you. Inside is a small carving of bone, worn smooth by years of touch. A horse crudely shaped, its mane suggested by a few shallow cuts. "It was your father's," she says. "Take it, if you must ride. Hold it when the night grows long. You close your hand around it." The bone is cool, its surface polished by his fingers. A tether fragile but real. The next day you ride with Torda again. He is restless, driving his horse hard across the plain, loosing arrows at clumps of grass as if they were enemies. His laughter rings in the wind. "Did you hear?" he shouts. "Some say the brothers will lead us across the Danube before summer's end." His words pound against your thoughts, echoing your mother's warning. You ride beside him in silence, the horse's mane whipping against your hand. "Do you not dream of it?" he presses. "The walls, the gold, the glory. To ride through Roman streets, to drink their wine, to see them bow before us." You hesitate. The image rises in your mind. Streets paved in stone, markets heavy with bread, walls towering against the sky. Yet along with it comes the thought of arrows darkening the air, of men crushed against gates, of fire consuming what was once whole. "Dreams," you say at last, "are not the same as truth." Torda laughs again, careless, "Truth is made by the strong. Attila will show us that." His certainty cuts against your doubt, sharp as flint. Yet it does not erase it. That evening, an elder named Oleg visits your yurt. His beard is streaked with grey, his eyes narrow as a hawk's. He sits by the fire without asking, a rite of age, and studies you for a long moment. "You are young," he says at last. "You hear gold and think of feasts. You hear Rome and think of glory. But hear this, the Romans are not fools. Their tribute is a shield as much as a gift. Each coin they give buys time. Time to build, time to plan. It's time to wait for our weakness." You listen, the bone horse heavy in your palm. "They know our hunger." Oleg continues, "They know we ride swift, strike hard, vanish into the grass. But they also know we cannot stay. Our homes move with the herds. We cannot root ourselves in their cities as they do, remember that. A storm cannot become a mountain." His words settle deep, like stones in water. For a moment, the fire crackles louder than your breath. When he leaves, the yurt feels smaller, the air close around you. You lie down, staring at the roof poles. The horse carving presses into your palm. Between your mother's fears, Torda's eagerness, and Oleg's caution, your thoughts pull in different directions. Sleep comes late, uneasy. You dream of the Danube, its waters black and endless. On one shore, the steppe stretches wide. On the other, walls rise higher than clouds. You stand on the riverbank, bow in hand, the horse carving at your side. Behind you, hooves thunder. Ahead, the walls wait. And you wake knowing that doubt is not weakness, it is warning. A whisper in the dark, reminding you that every oath carries a cost. The morning breaks sharp and clear, the sky a vast bowl of blue. Frost still clings to the grass, but the sun promises warmth, and the horses stamp impatiently against the chill. The camp is alive with motion, women shaking out hides to dry, children chasing each other through the smoke of rekindled fires, warriors tightening girths and stringing bows. There is a rhythm to it, steady as the beat of hooves. You rise, shoulders stiff, the weight of sleepless nights pressing against your chest. The bone horse rests in your palm, its smooth surface cool from the night. You turn it over with your thumb, tracing the shallow grooves that mark its mane. Each line is a whisper from your father, each curve a reminder of the road already walked. Outside, voices carry. Men speak of Attila and Bleda, the brothers who rule together now. Their names drift across the camp like smoke. Attila, sharp and commanding, whose words cut deeper than swords. Bleda, broader of frame, his temper slower but his hands steady on the reins of power. Some say the brothers are different as fire and stone, yet together they bind the tribes. You have not yet stood before them, but already their shadows stretch over your life. Tribute flows from Rome, the Danube waits, and men sharpen arrows with a hunger in their eyes. The plain itself seems to hum with expectation, as if the grass bends not only to the wind, but to the will of two men who would shape the world. Torda finds you near the horse lines, his grin wide. They say a great council will be called. The tribes will gather, rates, and the brothers will speak. You nod, your hands busy with the mare's bridle. Her breath mists the air, warm against your cheek, rates, and the smell of horsehair grounds you. Will you go? He presses. His eyes gleam eager, already certain of his own choice. The question lingers, rates. It is not just about the council. It is about the river, the walls, the war. That night, the camp gathers around the largest fire, rates. The flames leap high, smoke streaming into the star-scattered sky. Elders sit in a ring, their cloaks heavy with fur. Younger men stand behind, bows slung, quivers full. You take your place among them, the bone horse tucked against your palm. An old warrior named Sulai rises to speak, rates. His voice is gravel, worn by years of shouting across battlefields. When I was young, he says, the clans fought one another. Horse against horse, brother against brother. We burned more of our own tents than any Roman walls. But now, he gestures to the fire, rates, to the men gathered in its light. Now we are one. And the Romans tremble at the thought of it. A murmur of approval runs through the crowd, rates. Saleh lifts his hand, palm scarred, fingers twisted from old wounds. The gold they send is not gift, but fear, rates. They know the thunder of our hooves. They know the sky darkens with our arrows, rates. They know the Danube cannot hold us back. The men pound fists against their chests, the sound echoing like drums. You feel it in your ribs, rates, a vibration that steadies your doubts. Later, when the fire has burned low and the camp begins to fade into sleep, you sit alone. The carving warm now from your grip. You hear your mother's voice in memory, the warning in her eyes. You hear Oleg's words, heavy with caution, rates. And you hear Torda's laughter, eager for the promise of gold and glory. The voices swirl, but beneath them is the steady beat of your own heart, rates. You think of your oath, of the blood that marked your hand. You think of your father, who once crossed the river and returned silent, rates, carrying scars no one could see. You think of the plain, vast and endless, yet never enough to quiet the hunger of your people. Slowly, rates, you close your fingers around the bone horse. Its edges press into your skin, sharp and real. The choice has been waiting, rates, and now it settles in your chest with the weight of iron. You will ride, not for glory, not for gold, not even for Attila himself, rates. You will ride because you were born to the plain, to the bow, to the horse. Because the oath binds you, and because the world is shifting, rates, and to stand still would be to vanish. The decision does not roar, it does not blaze, it settles quietly, like a stone sinking into deep water, rates. When you lie down at last, the smell of smoke clings to your hair, the blanket rough beneath your cheek. The stars look down, cold and clear, rates. And for the first time in days your breath comes steady. The path is chosen, the waiting is done, and in your palm, the horse carving rests, rates. Warm with the memory of those who rode before you. Days after your decision are marked not by shouts of war, rates, but by the quieter weight of preparation. The plain feels restless, as if the earth itself knows movement is coming, rates. Horses toss their heads more sharply, and men bend over their work with a focus that is neither hurried nor slow, but steady, deliberate, unbroken, rates. You spend your mornings among the herds. Your mare is restless, stamping and snorting when you approach with the bridle. She can sense the tension, rates, the hum of change in the air. You stroke her neck, feeling the warmth beneath her coat, rates, and whisper the same words your father once spoke before long rides. Steady, little one. The road is long, but the grass will meet us. The mare nips your sleeve, impatient, as if to say she already knows. Nearby, women sit with churns, rates, the thick smell of fermenting mare's milk rising into the cold air. They pour it into leather skins, the liquid frothing white. Children watch, rates, giggling, before running off to chase each other through the smoke of morning fires. The milk is sour, sharp on the tongue, but it gives strength, rates. You've drunk it since you were old enough to ride, and though Romans spit it out in disgust, to you it tastes of home, of endurance, rates. Meat hangs from wooden frames, strips cut thin and drying in the wind, rates. What cannot be dried is pressed beneath saddles. Raw cuts placed between leather and horse flesh, softened by the animal's warmth and sweat. It is not pretty, but on the long rides it will keep a warrior alive when fires cannot be lit. You take your share of both, rates, wrapping the strips carefully, tying them with cord. In the heart of camp, men work on bows. The air smells of resin and sinew, rates. The composite bows of the Huns are short, curved like the crescent moon, layered from wood, horn, and glue made from boiled animal bones, rates. They take months to make, and when strung, they can send arrows further and truer than anything Rome commands, rates. You run your hand along the polished wood of your own bow, its surface smooth, its string taut, rates. It is more than a weapon. It is an extension of your arm, the promise of survival. Torda finds you there, arms full of arrows, rates. They say Rome will send more gold this season, he says with a grin. Enough to weigh down a wagon. You shrug, though your stomach stirs, rates. Gold is something you have only glimpsed once, in the form of a Roman coin your father kept hidden in a pouch. It seemed strange, heavy, rates. Not like the tools of life you knew. Here, on the plain, wealth is counted in horses, in meat, in the strength of one's bow. Yet now, because of the brothers, Roman gold trickles into the steppe, flowing like a river no one expected. Let the elders count it. You reply, rates, though your voice is quiet. Torda only laughs and slaps your shoulder, his joy unshaken. As the days pass, yurts come down one by one, rates. The felt coverings are rolled, the wooden frames tied in bundles, lashed onto carts pulled by oxen. Families move quickly, their hands practiced, rates. Nothing in a Hunnic camp is fixed. Home is wherever the carts halt, wherever the horses graze. You help your mother fold hides stiff with frost, rates. Your fingers burning from the cold. She does not speak of what is coming, but her eyes rest on you often, heavy with unspoken words. At night, rates. The camp gathers again. Warriors sit in small groups, checking tack and sharpening blades. The hiss of whetstones on iron is steady, rhythmic, rates. You polish your father's sword, its edge nicked from battles long past. It is not finely wrought like Roman steel, but it is solid, reliable, rates. The leather of the hilt is cracked beneath your hand, but it holds. One evening, you share a meal of dried meat and sour milk with Oleg. He chews slowly, his eyes narrowed. I rode once to the Danube, he says, rates. I saw the walls of their cities, stone piled higher than the tallest horse. I heard bells ringing across the river, rates, and I wondered if such walls could ever fall. You listen, saying nothing. They fear us. Oleg continues. That is why they pay, rates, but fear fades. Gold fades, hunger does not. He spits into the fire. Remember that, Arpad, rates. Remember it when the hooves thunder and the arrows fly. You nod, his words sinking deeper than you'd like. When the moon rises high, you lie among the bundles of supplies wrapped in furs. Around you, the camp quiets. Horses shift, their breath steaming into the night, rates. Leather creaks softly as saddles settle. The air smells of smoke and sweat, of meat and milk, of iron and horsehair, rates. You hold the bone horse in your palm, its edges worn smoother with each day, rates. You close your eyes and breathe in the world as it is now, still unbroken, still waiting. The future stretches ahead like the plain itself. It's endless and uncertain. Sleep comes slowly, the kind that drifts like mist across the steppe, and as you slip into it, rates. The last thing you hear is the steady breath of the mare, waiting for the road. The morning you are to leave feels sharper than others, rates, as though the air itself has taken on an edge. The grass of the plain glitters with frost, the blades silver in the weak light of dawn. Smoke drifts from the cooking fires, rising slowly before being carried off by the wind. Everything smells faintly of damp wool, wood smoke, rates, and horsehide. Your mother moves quietly around the yurt, rolling blankets and checking bundles with hands that have done this 100 times. She does not ask if you are ready. Readiness, in a life such as this, is not something you can measure. You simply go when the tribe moves, when the chieftains call. She sets a pouch in your hands. Inside, wrapped in a strip of hide, is a small carving, another horse. But not the bone figure your father gave you. This one is made of wood, smoother, lighter, the details finer. She looks at you then, her eyes dark and tired but steady. Your father carried the bone horse, she says softly. This one is yours. Wood for life, bone for death, rates. Take them both, so you do not forget either. You cannot speak for a long moment. The weight of the two carvings, one from father, braits, one from mother, settles in your palm like a balance. You slip the new one into the same pouch, beside the old braits. Torda comes to find you before the sun rises higher. His grin is gone today. He claps your shoulder, hard enough to sting. "We will ride together," he says simply. His voice cracks a little, but he hides it beneath a cough. Beyond him, braits. Oleg stands with his daughter clinging to his leg. She cannot be more than 6, her hair tangled and her cheeks red from the cold. She grips him fiercely, refusing to let go. He pries her fingers loose one by one, crouches and whispers something you cannot hear. She nods, tears streaking her face, and finally releases him. Oleg straightens, his eyes fixed on the horizon, not on her, braits. Farewells ripple through the camp like a quiet storm. Wives tie amulets of bone or bronze into their husbands' belts, braits. Elders murmur prayers to the spirits of the plain, words meant to carry riders safely across rivers and through forests. Children cry, but softly, braits, as if even they understand that noise has no place in this moment. Your mother presses her forehead to yours. Her breath smells faintly of milk and smoke. She does not weep, she only whispers, braits. Return with the spring grass. The words are both command and prayer. You gather your gear slowly, deliberately, as if each strap and buckle could delay the inevitable. The saddle creaks beneath your hands, the leather stiff with cold. You pack dried meat, braits, strips of horsehair rope, your bow and quiver, the pouch of tokens. The sword goes last, tied at your side, its weight familiar. When the call comes, a long note from a curved horn that echoes across the plain. Every man moves at once. Horses snort and paw the ground, braits, eager for the road. Warriors swing into saddles with practiced ease. Carts creak as they lurch forward, braits, carrying the yurts and belongings of families who follow the warband. You mount your mare, her warmth seeping through the saddle into your legs, braits. She tosses her head, sensing your tension. You stroke her neck once, firmly, and she steadies. Your mother stands just beyond the line of horses. She does not wave. She only watches, her arms wrapped around herself, her face unreadable in the morning light. For a moment, the world narrows, braits, the smell of horsehair, the bite of the wind on your cheeks, the silence between you and her. Then the horn sounds again, sharper, braits, and the line of riders begins to move. You look back once. She is still there, small against the vast plain, braits, smoke curling from the dying fire behind her. Then the distance grows, and the figures blur, swallowed by frost and horizon, braits. The hooves drum beneath you, steady and sure. Around you, the warband rides in silence. The only sounds are the creak of leather, braits, the soft rattle of arrows in quivers, the low breath of men not yet ready to speak. The steppe stretches out ahead, endless, waiting. You shift in the saddle, the carvings pressing gently against your side. Bone for death, wood for life, both carried now, side by side. You exhale, braits, letting the rhythm of the ride carry you forward. The goodbyes linger behind, but the road has already claimed you, braits. The warband does not begin with a roar, but with a steady rhythm. Hooves pressing into frosted earth, carts creaking beneath their loads, braits, men leaning forward into the morning wind. No one sings, no one calls out. The silence is its own kind of chant, braits. Your mare moves beneath you with energy held in check. Her muscles tense as if she knows she will not stop for many hours, braits. The saddle feels different today, harder, heavier. The weight of the bow across your lap, the pouch at your side, the sword tied against your hips. All of it adds a new stiffness to your body. Already, before the sun has risen high, your thighs burn with the pressure of gripping, braits. Your lower back aches. You shift often, but there is no escape. This is the price of the saddle. Around you, the world stretches in every direction, braits. To the east, the rising sun sets fire to the horizon, the steppe shining gold. To the west, the grassland still lies in shadow, braits. A sea of silver under the fading stars. The breath of horses clouds the air like smoke, merging with the mist that clings low to the ground, braits. The carts roll slowly behind the riders, their wheels groaning. Packed tight within are felt rolls from dismantled yurts, bundles of wood, braits, sacks of meat and skins of sour milk. A boy runs alongside one cart for a while, laughing breathlessly, before his mother catches his arm and pulls him back. You glance once, and then he is gone, swallowed by distance. Torda rides close, Brates, slouching in his saddle, his grin returning now that the camp is behind you. Do you think Rome has grass like this? He asks, sweeping a hand toward the endless plain. You shake your head. Stone, I think, and fields fenced tight. He makes a face, Brates, as though the idea of walls around grass is an offense to nature itself. Then they deserve to pay gold. He mutters, Brates, and urges his horse forward a little, as if he can outpace the thought. Oleg rides on your other side, upright and watchful, Brates. His daughter's face lingers in your mind, her tears bright in the morning frost. He says nothing for a long time. Then, Brates, as your mare tosses her head, he speaks quietly. Keep your bow close, boy. Not in the saddlebag. If the enemy appears, Brates, you will not have time to reach for it. You nod quickly, sliding the bow so it rests across your thighs, the string tight against your hand, Brates. The wood feels alive, humming faintly with each step of your horse. The day wears on. The rhythm of the march becomes your world, hooves drumming, leather creaking, the occasional snort or cough from men and animals alike. The sun climbs berms, then begins to sink again, Brates, shadows stretching long across the grass. The soreness deepens until it feels as if your legs and back have become part of the saddle itself, Brates. The thought of walking is almost laughable. You are stitched to the horse, bound by leather and bone. When at last the horn sounds, 2 long notes, rising like a bird, men begin to slow. The carts groan to a halt. Horses are led to grass and water, picketed with ropes and stakes, Brates. Fires spark in the twilight, thin columns of smoke rising into the darkening sky. You dismount stiffly, Brates, your knees trembling as your feet find the earth. The ground feels strange, unsteady, after so many hours above it. Torda stumbles too, laughing as he nearly falls. The horse has stolen my legs, he says, rubbing his thighs with both hands. You smile, Brates, though your own body aches in sympathy. Oleg drives a stake into the ground with a single heavy strike, then ties his horse. He glances at the two of you, his expression unreadable. It will be harder tomorrow, he says simply. Best eat, Brates, best sleep. You share dried meat by the fire, chewing slowly, the flavor sharp and salty. A skin of mare's milk is passed from hand to hand, Brates. It burns your throat, warming your chest against the cold. Around you, men murmur in low voices, telling stories not of battles, but of horses, Brates, of hunts, of journeys across the rivers. The sound is soothing, like water running over stones. Above, the stars appear one by one, Brates, scattering across the blackness. They seem closer here, brighter, as though the sky has bent low to watch the riders on their way, Brates. You lie back on your cloak, staring upward, your bow at your side, your mare's shadow moving gently beyond the firelight, Brates. The ache in your body does not fade, but it softens in the quiet. Around you, men settle into sleep, Brates, their breaths rising and falling with the horse's steady rhythm. The road has begun, and it stretches into darkness. You breathe deeply, Brates, letting the sound of hooves linger in your ears even as your eyes close. And in that rhythm, you find rest, Brates. The steppe does not last forever. For days the grass rolled on without end, golden under the sun, silver under the moon, Brates. The hooves drummed out a steady beat, and you began to believe perhaps the road would always be this simple. But then the horizon bent, Brates, and the earth itself changed. The first sign was water, not the narrow streams you knew from the plain, Brates, but a river wide enough that the far bank seemed like a grey blur. The current was strong, pulling branches and foam in its grip, Brates. The Danube is said to run like a vein through the heart of the world, and standing on its bank, you begin to believe it, Brates. The warband does not hesitate. Riders press forward, one after another, urging horses into the current. The water is shockingly cold, Brates, biting into your legs as your mare wades deeper. She swims with her head high, nostrils flaring, her muscles trembling against your thighs, Brates. The current tugs at you both, but she finds the far bank, scrambling up with hooves slipping in the mud. You cling tightly, Brates, your bow held above your head, water dripping from your clothes in heavy rivulets. On the far shore, men cough and laugh, Brates, their breath steaming in the air. Fires are lit quickly, though the smoke clings low in the damp. You strip off your cloak, wringing it out, Brates, the wool sodden and heavy. The smell of wet horse and wet leather is everywhere, sharp and sour. Torda shakes himself like a dog, its water flying in all directions. If Rome's gold is at the end of this river, he jokes, Brates, they can keep it. His laughter draws a few tired chuckles, though the sound is thin. Oleg says nothing. He simply checks his arrows, Brates, laying them out to dry by the fire, his face unreadable. The next days bring marshland. The ground swallows hooves up to the fetlocks, sucking at each step. The smell is thick, of rot and standing water, of reeds crushed under weight. Mosquitoes rise in clouds, Brates, stinging skin already raw from cold and damp. Horses stumble, snorting in frustration. Men curse under their breath, tugging at reins, Brates, pulling carts that lurch and sink into the mud. You feel your strength drain with each hour, as though the earth itself is pulling you downward, Brates. The meat taste of smoke and mud, the sour milk sharper than ever. Sleep comes only in snatches, broken by the buzzing of insects, Brates, the restless shifting of horses, the creak of wet leather. One night, as rain patters on your cloak, you lie awake listening to the camps. Torda mutters curses in his sleep. Oleg breathes heavily, his back against a cart wheel. The fires burn low, Brates, the smoke mixing with the mist until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. You feel the carvings in your pouch, Brates, bone and wood pressing against your side, and wonder how many more rivers and marshes lie ahead. When the marsh finally gives way to forests, it feels almost like relief, yet the trees bring their own weight. The canopy cuts off the sky, muting the light. The air is damp, Brates, heavy with the scent of moss and pine. Sound carries differently here, Brates. The hooves no longer ring on open ground, but sink softly into layers of needles and leaves. Every creak of leather, every cough, Brates, seems loud in the hush. The horses grow restless, unused to the shadows pressing in from every side. Your mare tosses her head, its ears flicking back and forth. You stroke her neck, whispering softly, but your own unease mirrors hers. On the third day in the forest, Brates, hills rise ahead. They are not mountains, but to men and horses born of the steppe, even these slopes feel steep. The climb is slow, Brates, your thighs burning with the effort, your mare's breath harsh beneath you. Sweat mixes with the damp of rain, soaking your tunic. Brates, every muscle aches. At the top, you pause, looking back. The line of riders stretches far behind, a dark ribbon winding through the trees, Brates. Beyond them, you can almost see the memory of the steppe, flat, endless, simple. It feels impossibly far away now. Torda pulls up beside you, Brates, his chest heaving, his face red with effort. If Rome lies beyond these hills, he gasps. They had better have more than gold, Brates. They had better have soft beds and wine. He tries to grin, but it falters halfway, his exhaustion clear. Oleg rides up slowly, Brates, his expression unchanged. He looks at the horizon, then at you. This is only the beginning, he says quietly, Brates. Do not waste your strength on complaints. The land has more trials yet. You nod, though your throat is dry. He is right, Brates. The road does not care about your comfort. The earth is both path and enemy, and you have only just begun to learn its terms. That night, Brates, rain falls steadily, drumming on leather, soaking cloaks, hissing in the fires until they sputter and fade. You sit beneath a pine, Brates, your mare tied close, her breath warm against your hand. Water drips from her mane, from your sleeves, from the branches above, Brates. The world is reduced to the sound of rain, the smell of damp earth, the weight of weariness in your bones. For the first time, Brates, you feel doubt press heavily against your chest. Not fear of battle, not fear of death, but a quieter fear, Brates, that the land itself may swallow you before you ever see the walls of Rome. You close your eyes, letting the rain wash over you. Around you, the camp sleeps uneasily. Beyond the trees, the land waits, vast and unyielding, and in the rhythm of water dripping from horsehair, Brates, you hear the truth. The plain was only the beginning. The world is changing beneath your feet, and it will test you at every turn. The land does not only test your courage, it tests your body, piece by piece, until you no longer know where the ache is end, and you begin, Brates. The first wound is simple, a blister on your heel. Days of damp boots, of climbing slopes slick with rain, Brates, of mounting and dismounting in mud. The skin peels raw and red. You try to ignore it, but each step drives pain upward, sharp as flint. Soon your thighs burn, your back stiffens, your shoulders ache from bow and quiver, pressing always against them. The saddle rubs until your legs are lined with sores, crusted and weeping. You are not alone in this. Men all around groan as they rise in the morning, joints stiff, lips cracked from wind and rain. Horses limp from stones wedged in hooves, from fetlocks twisted in the marsh. A rider near you curses as his mount stumbles, pitching him into the mud. He rises limping, clutching his sides, his face pale with pain. They lash him onto a cart, his groans muffled beneath the creak of wheels. Food grows thin. Fresh meat is rare. Strips of horseflesh are pressed beneath saddles, the sweat and heat softening them until they are chewable. The taste is sour, half rotten, but it fills the stomach. You drink fermented mare's milk, its sharpness burning down your throat. Some men chew leather when hunger grows too sharp, softening it with spit until it yields something like sustenance. The nights are the worst. Cold seeps into bones that no fire can warm. Cloaks never truly dry, clothes smell of smoke and mildew. You learn tricks from older riders, drying shirts not above flames but in smoke, so they do not scorch, boiling river water with hot stones dropped from fire, so sickness does not spread, rubbing horse fat into cracked hands and feet, the grease sealing skin against wind. Still, sickness comes. One man coughs until his chest rattles, his breath wheezing. Another grows pale and fevered, his lips blistered, eyes glazed. He is left behind at dawn, a bundle of cloak and bow, his horse taken by another. No words are spoken. Death is not shouted here. It creeps in quietly, accepted like rain or hunger. Torda complains more openly now. His humor has grown sharp, edged with bitterness. Rome had better be paved with roasted lambs. He mutters one night, gnawing on a strip of meat tough as rawhide. Or else I'm turning back. His voice is loud enough for men to laugh, but not so loud as to carry to the captains. He knows the penalty for open defiance. Oleg remains steady, though you can see the toll in the lines of his face. In the way he rubs his knees when he thinks no one watches. His bowstring hand is cracked and raw, the skin split. Yet when others falter, he offers them his silence, not comfort, not encouragement, but presence, as though standing unbroken is comfort enough. One evening, after another day of endless rain, you stumble near the center of the column. The horses part briefly, and through the curtain of water you glimpse him, Attila. He rides at the heart of the band, his cloak heavy with wet, his posture unbent. His horse moves with effortless strength, hooves splashing through mud as if it were nothing. Around him ride captains, their faces hard, their eyes fixed forward. He does not laugh, he does not complain, he does not seem touched by hunger or cold. The sight chills you more than the rain, for you are soaked to the bone, sore in every joint, your belly gnawing itself hollow. Yet he rides as if untouched, untouchable. It is not human, you think, the way the hardships slide from him. It is as though the land itself cannot lay a hand on him. When you lie down that night, your body aching. You press the carved bone pouch to your chest. You think of the boy you were on the steppe, with only training wounds and the sting of cold winds. That boy is gone. His skin is sloughing away, scraped and torn and hardened into something else. The land is remaking you, whether you survive or not. You will never again be what you were. The Danube lies before you like a grey serpent, swollen with spring rains, its banks churned with mud. For days you have ridden toward it, each mile gnawing at your bones, each night spent under wet cloaks. Now the river marks the edge of Rome's world, and the beginning of Attila's hunger. The crossing is swift, almost careless. Horses plunge into the shallows, snorting, water foaming to their bellies. Riders hold gear high, bows strung tight in oilskin. The current drags, strong and cold, but the band moves as one, thousands of hooves thrashing. On the far bank, reeds shiver empty, no legion waits, no war rises. It's only silence. It is Oleg who mutters first. So this is Rome. His voice is low, more wary than mocking. You answer with a nod, though in your chest something twists. You had imagined high stone walls, soldiers gleaming in bronze, cities rising like mountains. Instead there is only wet grass, and the hush of land too empty for its size. 2 days later, the emptiness ends. Smoke rises on the horizon, not from your fires, but from a village. Scouts return with word, farmers, traders, nothing more. Few men, no soldier. The order is given. You ride in at dawn. The mist is thick, clinging to the ground, muting the sound of hooves until you are nearly upon them. Dogs bark, women scream, children scatter. Thatched roofs burn when torches touch them, the smoke rolling black and bitter into the air. Chickens scatter, horses are seized, carts overturned. Your hand shakes as you notch an arrow. The first man you see is not armed, a farmer clutching a staff, his face pale with terror. He runs, and another rider cuts him down before you release your string. The sound is quick, dull. A body falling in mud. The village is no battle, it is a tearing open. Houses looted, food seized, animals slaughtered or driven off. The spoils are divided roughly, gold to the captains. Grain and hides shared among the men. Some laugh, some grow silent. The screams fade into smoke. You do not laugh. The smell of burning hair and wood clings to you, bitter in the throat. You chew your meat that night in silence, though it tastes of ash. Not all return. In the chaos, a horse stumbled on a hidden ditch, throwing its rider. One of the young men from your own clan. His name was Jutus. You had trained beside him, raced him on the plains, shared fermented milk in winter nights. You see it clearly, still his body half, hidden in reeds. His leg twisted, his chest crushed beneath his own mount. The column moved on, for there was no time to stop. His bow was taken, his horse claimed. His body was left behind. That night, Torda's humor vanishes. He stares into the fire, face drawn. He was faster than me, he whispers. Not to anyone, not to you. Just to the dark. Faster than me. The silence holds. No one tells him otherwise. Sleep comes in broken pieces. Dreams of the burning village mix with Jutus's face. His laughter on the steppe. The way he once swore he would ride to the edge of the world. You wake before dawn, your chest tight, your hands trembling. You tell yourself this is what you were trained for. To serve the Khan. To break Rome, to carry glory back to your clan. Yet the word glory feels thin, like smoke dissipating in wind, as you ride on the next morning. The river behind you, the land ahead waiting, the question turns in your chest. Why am I really doing this? The land does not stop for grief. By the third morning after Jutus's death, the march resumes with its old rhythm. Hooves in mud, harnesses creaking, smoke rising at dawn and fading at dusk. The silence of the men tells you that his absence lingers, but no words are spent on it. The Huns are not a people who mourn aloud, yet you feel it, not only in Torda's dull eyes, or in the way Oleg sharpens his knife without speaking, but in yourself. Each mile weighs heavier, as though the ghost of Jutus rides behind you. At night, when fires glow low, you remember his laughter and his vow to see the edge of the world. You know now he never will, and still you ride. What changes is not the weight, but how you bear it. You begin to see your bow differently. Until now it had been a weapon of training, of pride, a mark of manhood. Now it becomes something more, an anchor, a way to steady your breath. Each morning you string it carefully, oiling the horn tips, running your hand along the sinew backing. You test the draw until your arms ache, until your hands stop shaking. You practice from the saddle, not in ceremony but in motion. Arrows loosed at full gallop, shafts hissing through mist. At first you miss more than you strike, but repetition teaches rhythm, the shift of weight, the moment of release between hoofbeats. By the 5th day, 1 in 3 finds its mark on straw dummies left behind by captains. By the 10th, 1 in 2. It is not perfection, but it is progress, and progress feels like something you can hold. Others practice too. Horns sound across the plains, sharp and low, signals to spread, to gather, to feign retreat. Smoke columns rise in patterns, curling against the sky, telling whole companies where to ride. You begin to understand the language of it, how an army moves like a flock of starlings, shifting in unison. Guided by signals few outsiders could read, horses too teach lessons. Your mare, once restless, now endures long marches without stumbling. She drinks when water is offered, But she does not thirst wildly, for she has been trained to go without until the column halts. You learn to trust her instincts, her ears pricking at scents long before your own senses catch them. In her steadiness, you find your own. As the camps grow orderly, each clan has its place, tents set in circles, fires spaced, gear stacked neatly. Discipline is strict, not shouted but enforced with eyes, with silence. A tent left disorderly means supplies lost, or horses freed, or worse, dishonor before the khans. You fold your blanket tight each dawn, roll your gear clean, tend to your mare before you eat. Small acts, but each day they grow smoother, faster. Torda begins to climb out of his silence. His humor returns, though quieter, more measured. When Rome sees us, he mutters one night, stirring a pot of millet and dried meat. They'll think the sky itself is falling. You hear the flicker of pride beneath his words, and you let it settle between you like an ember. Oleg remains as steady as stone, but you see him watching you more closely now, not with suspicion, but with the faintest hint of approval. When your arrow strikes true at full gallop one afternoon, he grunts softly. It is not praise, but from him it feels like more than 100 words. The land itself grows into a teacher. You begin to read it the way others read script. The smell of damp earth tells you rain will come by nightfall. The shift of light across reeds warns of water beneath. The silence of birds warns of riders near. Your senses sharpen, stretched thin until every detail seems louder, clearer. At first it unsettles you, the way the world presses in so close. But in time, it steadies you. The land is harsh, but it does not lie. It shows you plainly what will come, if only you learn to see. One night, when the fires are low, you lie awake listening to the wind through grass. For the first time, you do not feel only the weight of loss. You feel something else too. Not joy, not pride, but a quiet steadiness, as if your bones have sunk deeper into the earth. Jutas is gone, Others will fall. You know this now. But you remain, your breath rising, your bow strong in your hands, your horse steady beneath you. The boy who began this march is already behind you. What rides forward now is something harder, quieter, more certain. And for the first time, you believe you may endure. The land changes again. The grasses grow shorter, the soil harder, the wind sharper against your face. You feel it not only in your lungs, but in the rhythm of the march. Each day the column drives farther, 20, sometimes 30 miles before the sun dips. Horses foam at the flanks, men sag in the saddle, yet no one breaks. The order has come pressed deep. It is the river forts that mark the threshold. Stone walls rise above the banks, weeds sprouting in cracks, Roman banners hanging limp. Once, perhaps, these bastions were strong, the line between empire and steppe. Now they look tired, like old men holding spears too heavy for their arms. The first falls almost without a fight. A handful of soldiers, their armor dulled, their eyes wide with fear, scatter at the sight of thousands of horsemen. Some run, some drop their weapons. The gates burn, the walls blacken, the stores are emptied. Inside, you find more dust than wealth. A chest of coins, bronze, not gold. A few amphorae of wine, sour on the tongue, records etched in Latin you cannot read. Yet the captains speak of tribute, of the gold Rome once sent north. 700 pounds a year, the elders whisper. A river of wealth meant to hold back the Huns. Wealth that no longer comes. Wealth that will now be taken by force. The march continues. Gear grows heavier. The weight of your bow, your quiver full of 30 arrows, the rolled cloak tied behind your saddle, the pouch of dried meat and tools, it all presses down 30, 40 pounds at least. You feel each ounce on climbs, each pound in your aching shoulders. Still you carry it, because to set it down is to die. The land itself resists you. Roads cut by Roman hands stretch straight as spears, yet their stones are slick with moss, their edges broken. They carry you swiftly, but they also guide your enemies. You ride them with unease, eyes always on the horizon, ears pricked for horns. At night, the air feels different, colder, heavier, filled with scents you do not know, olive oil, strange herbs, smoke from villages that burn with a different wood than the plains you left. You feel the weight of distance pressing between you and home, It is Torda who voices what you feel. "We've passed the line," he mutters, poking at the embers of a dying fire. "No riding back now, it's only forward." His tone is not bitter this time, nor mocking. It is simple truth. Oleg nods once, sharpening his knife in silence. The rasp of stone on iron is steady, almost soothing. Around you, men tend to horses, mend gear, chew dried meat without a word. The band feels tighter now, not in joy, not in camaraderie, but in necessity. A rope drawn taut, holding each to the other. The march the next day confirms it. 25 miles, the sun hot, the wind dry. One horse stumbles and is put down, its rider forced to walk until another mount can be claimed. Dust clings to your throat, your tongue thick with thirst. When water finally comes, it tastes brackish, but you drink until your belly aches. And still the captains drive you on. By dusk, you crest a hill and see it the valley below, cut with Roman roads, dotted with villages, fields green with spring growth. Smoke rises from chimneys, distant and fragile. It feels like another world, one richer, softer, yet soon to be torn open. Something shifts in you as you look. You know now that the steppe is behind you, the border left behind in smoke and ruins. The rivers, the forts, the lands of your youth, they are no longer a shield. Ahead lies Rome, vast and heavy, and you are within it. You draw breath, slow and deep. The air tastes of foreign earth. There is no turning back, only forward. The rain does not stop. It falls in sheets, relentless, drumming against cloaks, seeping into saddlebags, soaking flesh until skin blisters beneath damp leather. Fires hiss and die in the mud, smoke curling thin before vanishing. Each morning you wake already wet, already shivering. Each night you lie down in clothes that never dry. The horses suffer first. Their coats lose their sheen, ribs showing through wet hides. Hooves soften, crack. A dozen collapse in a single day. Legs twisted, unable to rise. Some are butchered where they fall, their meat divided raw, chewed bloody by men too hungry to wait. Others are left to rot in the rain, their eyes clouding as crows gather. Your mare staggers once, knees dipping, and your heart seizes. You dismount, leading her by hand through the mud, whispering promises into her twitching ears. She steadies, but her breath is ragged, steam rising weak from her nostrils. You rub her neck, praying silently that she endures. Without her you are nothing. The men falter too. Coughs echo through the camp at night, deep and wet. One man burns with fever, his skin hot despite the rain. By dawn he is gone, wrapped in his cloak and left beneath a cairn of stones. Another falls in the march, too weak to stand, his body sinking into mud until two others drag him forward. Faces grow gaunt, eyes hollow. Laughter has vanished. Even curses grow scarce. Torda breaks on the fourth day. You see it in his eyes first. The dull glaze, the way he stares at nothing as his horse plods forward. Then his body slips sideways, sliding from the saddle into the muck. He does not rise. You and Oleg dismount together, mud splashing to your knees. Torda's face is grey, his lips blue. His breath rattles shallow, chest shuddering. Oleg growls, hauling at his arm, but Torda's body hangs limp. His head lolls. His bow slides from his shoulder, sinking into water. You press your hand to his chest, His heart still beats, faint, uneven. You shout for fire, for dry cloth, for anything. But the rain mocks you, pouring harder. At last you drag him beneath a half-collapsed shelter, your cloak spread over his trembling body. You hold him against your chest, trying to share warmth, though your own skin is cold as stone. Hours pass, his breath rasping, fading, then flaring weak again. Oleg kneels beside you, silent, sharpening his knife, though his eyes never leave Torda's face. Night falls heavy. The rain softens to mists, but the cold deepens. Men curl beneath damp cloaks, too wary to build fires. Horses shift restlessly, their breath white. Somewhere an infant cries, then is hushed. The world narrows to mud, to darkness, to the faint wheeze of Torda's lungs against your ear. And something in you cracks. You had thought yourself remade by hardship, hardened by loss. But now the silence presses too heavy, the darkness too endless. Your chest tightens, your throat closes. You think of Judas lying broken in the reeds. You think of your mother's tent, warm with smoke, the smell of mare's milk simmering, the feel of her hand steady on your shoulder. You would give anything to be there again, just once. Rates. Instead you sit in the dark, your friend slipping away, your body soaked, your spirit hollow. This is the wall, not enemy swords, not Roman spears, rates, but the weight of unending cold and silence, grinding you down until you nearly break. You do not know if you will rise tomorrow, rates. You do not know if Torda will. For now, there is only the rain, the darkness, and the sound of your own weary breath. The dawn comes colorless, grey upon grey. Rain still drizzles thin but endless, dripping from felt roofs, pooling in hoofprints, soaking through every seam of clothing. Rates. The camp stirs slowly, like an old man rising from his bed. You are still awake, your cloak wrapped around Torda's shivering frame. Rates. His skin is clammy, his breath shallow but present. He has not slipped away. That is the only miracle you can claim. Oleg crouches near the door flap, Rates, his knife in hand, slicing strips of something dark and stringy. He tosses one into your lap without a word. The smell is sour, Rates. The flesh tough. Meat cut from a horse that collapsed yesterday. He has kept it beneath his saddle, Rates. Flattened by weight and warmed by the mare's body heat. It is half cooked by friction and sweat, tender enough to chew without breaking teeth. Rates. You tear a strip with numb fingers and press it to Torda's lips. At first, nothing. Then faintly, his mouth opens. His teeth close, his jaw moves. Rates. He swallows. His chest rises deeper, steadier. You feel your own breath catch, not relief, not yet, but something close. Rates. The men around you stir as well. One wrings his cloak like a rag, twisting water onto the earth. Another slits a horse's neck with practiced calm. Rates. Catching its blood in a wooden bowl. He drinks, then passes it on, the rim wet red. It circles the camp, each man taking a swallow. Rates. The iron taste burns down your throat, metallic and hot, and warmth spreads through your chest. Life shared, crude but real. A boy no older than you strikes flint against steel, sparks flashing against dry reeds saved in oilskin. At last a flame flickers, small as a candle. Rates. Then leaps as he feeds it horsehair and splinters. A cheer rises, not loud but sharp, cutting the silence. Men huddle close. Rates. Holding out trembling hands, steam rising from soaked sleeves as the fire licks at them. You drag Torda nearer, propping his head toward the heat. Rates. His eyes flutter open, pale but aware. His lips move without sound. You lean close, catching a single word alive. It is enough. The camp repairs itself in pieces. Men lash broken tent poles with rawhide, patch felt walls with scraps of hide. Saddles are tightened. Rates. Arrows checked, bowstrings dried against flame. No one speaks of turning back. Such words do not exist here. There is only forwards. When the herd is driven near, your mare stumbles but does not fall. Her eyes are dull, her breath shallow. Rates. But she presses her head against your chest when you stroke her neck. You cut a thin slice from her flank with your dagger. Not deep, not deadly. Rates. Just enough to bleed. She does not resist. You catch the blood in your palm and drink, then press the rest to Torda's lips. He grimaces, but swallows. It is a bond older than memory, man and horse sharing life, keeping one another standing on the steppe. By midday, the rain lightens. A faint breeze stirs the mist. The fire has dried your hands enough to feel them again. Men chew meat, drink kumis from leather skins. Rates. Tighten girths and bridle straps. The air smells of smoke and horse and damp wool, but beneath it all lies something sharper, resolve. Rates. You feel it in your own chest. The wall has not vanished. The mud still clings, the cold still bites. But you have passed through it. Rates. What tried to break you has not yet succeeded. You stand, stretching sore legs, looking out across the grey horizon. Somewhere beyond, Rome waits. Rates. Cities of stone, walls that think themselves eternal, riches measured in gold. You will see them soon enough. But for now, there is only the fire. Rates. The breath of your horse at your side, the steady beat of Torda's pulse beneath your hand. You are alive. And that is enough. The days no longer blur into misery. They settle into pattern, like hoofbeats drumming the same rhythm on packed earth. At dawn, you rise before the sun, breath clouding in the grey air, and tighten your mare's girth with practiced hands. Once, Rates. Every strap fumbled your fingers, every buckle seemed wrong. Now you move without thought. Rates. Every piece in its place before your mind is even fully awake. The bow goes across your chest, the quiver at your hip, meat in your pouch, skin of kumis at your side. You are ready before the fire dies. The others are the same. Men who once cursed the cold now simply wrap cloaks tighter and mount. Even Oleg, whose curses could fill a valley, wastes no words in the morning. He chews a strip of dried flesh, spits out gristle, and swings into the saddle. No command is given, yet the herd moves as one. You ride, and ride, and ride. At first, you thought the distance endless, the land repeating itself like some cruel trick. But in time, your eyes learn to read it. The slope of a hill tells you how far to the next river. The bend of a stream hints at the villages it feeds. A broken tree means shelter for a fire. You begin to see patterns invisible before, as if the steppe itself is whispering its secrets to you. Your mare has learned as well. Her ears twitch to your legs, turning with the pressure of your knees before your hands tug the reins. She is more than beast now. She is partner. When you loose an arrow at full gallop, her stride holds steady, as if she knows the exact heartbeat when your string will release. The bow hums in your hands like a living thing. It is no common weapon, but the Hunnic bow layers of horn, sinew, and wood bent into a perfect curve. Short enough for horseback, yet stronger than the long bows of distant lands. In training you could barely draw it. Now, your fingers pull the string to your ear, and the arrow leaps like a hawk. At 20 paces it pierces a tree. At 50 it buries itself in straw. At 100 it thuds into wood deep enough that you must wrench hard to free it. You practice daily, as do all the others. Not with words, not with orders, but with motion. A whistle, a gallop, the snap of release. The air thrums with shafts in flight. Some arrows are tipped with iron, others smeared with poison brewed from herbs and rot. The Romans, you are told, fear these most of all. The land feeds you only enough to keep moving. Villages vanish as you draw near. Doors left open, fires cold. You scavenge what remains: sacks of millet, barrels of sour beer, goats too stubborn to flee. The people scatter before you, carrying tales farther than your arrows can reach. You see it in the eyes of those few who remain, the fear of shadows that move faster than thought. But fear is not your concern. Survival is. Nights are different now. The yurts rise and fall like breathing. A camp springs up in the time it takes the sky to darken, then vanishes at dawn as if it were never there. Fires burn low, smoke controlled, so scouts cannot mark you. You sit near Torda, who has regained his strength, his face leaner, but his eyes sharper. He rarely speaks of his weakness, but he meets your gaze with something like gratitude when he tears a strip of meat and presses half into your hand. Oleg grows quieter, though his scowl remains. Once he mocked your youth. Now he lets you ride beside him, even shows you how to twist horsehair into a cord, how to repair a broken bowstring with sinew. His gruff nod is worth more than words. The steppe itself has become teacher. You watch the clouds to know the weather, feel the grass beneath your horse's hooves, to tell if water lies near. You learn that fire burns longer when fed with dung, that smoke drifts differently when enemies approach. Small truths, survival truths. It is not easier. Your bones still ache, your belly still growls, your cloak still soaks in rain. But you no longer fight these things. You accept them, bend with them, move as the bow bends to string. One night as the fire dims, Oleg says quietly, "You are Hun now." You do not answer. You only look into the flames, watching them dance low, steady, sure. The journey is not over. It may never be over. But you feel the shift. You are no longer a boy clinging to your horse, hoping not to fall. You are part of the rhythm, part of the silence, part of the long shadow stretching westward. And in that silence, there is strength. The first sign is not a wall or a watchtower, but a road. It cuts across the land like a scar, too straight to be natural. Stones pressed tight into earth, running farther than the eye can follow. You rein in your mare and stare. The steppe has no lines, no edges, only the bend of rivers and the roll of hills. But here, a hand has carved order into the wild. The road hums with silence, waiting for feet, for carts, for armies. Oleg spits. Romans. The word carries both contempt and recognition. You urge your mare forward. her hooves clattering strangely on the stones. She snorts uneasy, as if the road itself resists her weight. Behind you, the column follows, rates. Hundreds of hooves striking in rhythm. The sound echoes unnaturally, as though the land has been forced into music it did not choose. Beyond the road rise fields, wide swaths of wheat, stalks golden and brittle in the late summer sun. Fences mark the edges, rates. Neat rows where vines cling to wooden stakes. You have seen grasslands sway, endless and untamed, but never this land bent into squares, disciplined like soldiers. It is beautiful in its way, but unsettling. By midday you see smoke, not camp smoke, but plumes rising from chimneys, rates. A village crouches against the horizon, its roofs tiled red, its walls built of stone rather than hide or wood. Chickens scatter as you ride closer. A few goats bleat from behind fences, yet the streets are silent. Doors stand open, carts abandoned. The riders dismount cautiously, rates, spreading through narrow lanes. You run your hand along a wall, cold stone, unmoving, older than any hut you have known, rates. It does not sway in wind or creak with age. It feels like a thing made to outlast men. Inside one house, you find bread left on a table, rates, hardened but whole. Clay jars of oil line the walls, amphorae sealed with wax. A loom leans against the corner, threads unfinished, as if the weaver fled mid-stitch. Tord enters behind you, running his fingers over the loom. They built to stay. He murmurs, but they did not stay. You leave with grain, oil, and jars. Others find coins scattered in corners, bronze and silver, rates, stamped with faces of emperors you do not know. Children in the ranks hold them up, laughing, tossing them in the air like stones, but Oleg pockets his with grim quiet. Gold will follow, he mutters. Always gold, and he is right. That evening, at camp, rates, word spreads from scouts. The Eastern Romans pay tribute now, 700 pounds of gold each year, sent across the Danube in wagons, rates. It is said Attila and Bleda forced it from them not with war, but with the mere threat of it. Rome buys peace with treasure. You sit by the fire, rates, oil from the amphora hissing as it drips into flame, and think about the weight of gold. You have never seen such wealth, never touched more than a few silver coins, but you hear the men speak of it, chains, crowns, chalices, as if it were as common as water, rates. And yet, for all their gold, the Romans abandoned their homes at the sight of your riders. Wealth without courage, strength without freedom, rates. You wonder if that is what stone houses do. Root men too deeply to run far, tie them to walls they cannot defend, rates. The days ahead show more of Rome's edges, roads like veins carrying you deeper. Villages half empty, some burnt, some surrendered before your arrival. Granaries filled with wheat, taken as easily as plucking fruit. Fences splinter beneath hooves, orchards stripped bare. Refugees move west, carrying stories with them, tales of fire and riders who come like thunder, rates. You begin to notice changes in yourself as well. Once, you would have stared in awe at the tiled roofs, the coins, the oil lamps glowing in the dark, rates. Now they pass before you like clouds. You see them, take what is needed, move on. The wonder fades, only the rhythm remains. At night, by the fire, rates. Torda sits beside you, silent. He does not speak of villages or coins. Instead, he sharpens arrows, checking each fletching, each shaft. You do the same. The work soothes you, hands moving as steadily as hooves on the road. One evening, you wander away from camp, rates, following the Roman road as it cuts west. The air is cool, the sky pricked with stars. You kneel, touching the stones again. They are cold, rates, unyielding, unmoved by the firelight. You imagine legions marching here once, men in armor, shields and spears flashing, rates. The road still waits for them, but they are gone. You wonder what roads the Huns will leave behind. When you return, the camp is quiet, rates. Fires burn low, shadows long. Oleg nods at you, nothing more. Tord is already asleep, cloak pulled tight. The horses shift and snort, rates, their bodies forming a living wall around the yurts. You settle into your place, cloak wrapped close, and feel the stones beneath you, rates, harder than earth, colder than grass, yet strangely steady. The world ahead is different than you imagined. Not endless fields, not empty lands, rates, but a place already shaped by other hands, other dreams. And yet, you are part of it now. You have crossed the threshold. There is no turning back, rates. The camp feels less like a wandering horde now, and more like a city that moves. It grows each evening as wagons gather, yurts unfold, herds circle in a protective ring. Traders set up stalls near the fires, spreading Roman cloth, glass beads, iron pots, grates, and weapons stripped from garrisons. Smoke curls upward from dozens of hearths, carrying the scent of roasting meat, boiling grain, grates, and fermented milk. Once, you thought of camp as a place to collapse, nothing more. Now you walk through it with eyes open, seeing order where before there was only chaos. Women sew, children fetch water, men mend saddles or hammer irons. Even captives, Romans taken from villages, move among them, some guarded, some already absorbed. A smith bends over his forge, grates. Sparks bright against the dusk, shaping a blade under the eye of a Hun overseer. It is not Rome, and yet it is something like it. Your name has begun to be spoken. Not loudly, not with ceremony, but in passing. A man nods as you bring back a goat from the hills, grates. A boy repeats your instruction as he learns to knot a bowstring. Torda grins when he sees it, though he says nothing. One evening, a woman approaches, grates, a child at her side. The boy cannot be more than 9, his face thin, his eyes wide. She speaks in a language you barely know. Words of the Alans, grates, perhaps, or Goths. But the meaning is clear when she pushes the child toward you. She gestures to your mare, then to the boy's unsteady stance. You understand, she wants him to ride. At first you hesitate. You are no teacher, no master, grates. But the boy looks at you with such raw hope that you cannot turn away. You kneel, pressing his small hands to the reins, showing him how to grip, grates. You lift him into the saddle, his legs dangling awkwardly. The mare flicks her ears but remains still, sensing the fragility of her new burdens. Press, you say, tapping your own knees. The boy mimics you, squeezing clumsily. The mare shifts a step. His eyes widen, his breath catches. Then he laughs. A sound so pure it cuts through the camp like sunlight through mist. Others glance, then smile. A few clap softly, grates. The boy's mother bows low, her face alight with gratitude. You feel warmth spread through you. Not pride, but something gentler, deeper, grates. That night by the fire, Oleg mutters, "You'll make men of them yet." He grins without teeth, shaking his head. In the days that follow, grates, small things seem to find you. A boy with a broken strap comes for help. A girl carrying water asks you to lift the skin to her shoulders. A weary rider asks how you keep your arrows dry in the rain. None of it is grand, none of it marked by titles or ranks, grates. But it gathers like snow, small flakes that together form something larger. The chiefs divide tribute in the great tent, grates. You do not sit among them, but you hear the weight of it. Roman gold, measured in pounds, parceled among leaders, grates. Rumor says Attila himself holds court in silence, his eyes sharper than any blade, his words few but final. You do not see him, but you feel his shadow in every decision, every order passed down. At the edges of camp, captives gather, Romans, Goths, Alans, grates, all folded into the tide. Some resist, their eyes smoldering. Others adapt, trading knowledge for survival, grates. A Roman smith teaches a Hun boy how to shape an iron head for a spear. A Goth woman shows how to weave flax into finer cloth. You watch, grates, and you realize this too is war, not of blades but of lives mingling, reshaping. One evening, as you sit with Torda and Oleg near the fire, approaches. He kneels, offering you a strip of meat. "You taught my son to ride," he says simply. "For that you eat." You accept, grates, and though the meat is tough, it fills you more than any food yet. The camp settles into rhythm. Each dawn, it rises, each dusk, it falls, grates. You ride farther, take more villages, gather more grain and flocks. But your mind lingers not on the raids, not on the burning, grates, but on the small hands gripping reins, the boys' laughter, the nods of men. You are no longer just one rider among many. You are becoming part of the weave, a thread noticed, if only faintly. When sleep comes, you lie back beneath the felt roof of your yurt, grates. The fires glow soft against the walls. You think of the road stretching west, of cities yet unseen, of Rome itself. You think of names, grates, how they are spoken and remembered, and you wonder if, someday, your name will mean more than just survival. For now, it is enough, grates. The raid had ended as they often did. A burst of fire, the flight of villagers, the scramble of hands pulling grain sacks onto wagons. Yet tonight felt different. Perhaps it was the richness of the hall, or the way the chief spoke less harshly, their faces lit by satisfaction. Perhaps it was the smell rising from the center of camp, not the sour tang of mare's milk, or the leathery bite of dried meat, but something deeper, richer. When you followed the smoke, you saw its spits turning over the flames, whole goats and pigs roasting, fat dripping into the coals with a hiss. Beside them, a Roman captive bent over an oven fashioned of clay and stone, pulling flat rounds of bread from the heat. The scent rose and wrapped the camp like a spell, warm, yeasty, foreign, and yet instantly beloved. Your stomach growled, louder than the fire crackling. Torda laughed, elbowing you. Even your belly honors Attila's victories. When the food was carried out, it came not only to the chiefs but to the riders as well. A slave pressed a round of bread into your hand. It burned your palm with its heat, and the smell nearly undid you. You tore into it, steam rising, soft inside, unlike anything you had eaten. Grain was no stranger, but bread. Bread was something Romans made, not you. And yet, here it was, between your teeth, filling your mouth with warmth. Wine followed, passed in earthen jugs, bitter and sharp on your tongue. You coughed at first, then drank again. Around you men laughed, some drunk already, their voices high and reckless. Someone struck a drum, another pulled at a Roman lyre, its notes uncertain but cheerful. For the first time in months, the camp sounded not like an army but like a village. Oleg leaned back, grace shining on his beard, eyes half lidded with contentment. If Rome gave us this every year, he muttered. I would never raise a sword again. Torda snorted, tearing bread in half. They give us gold instead. More useful, Bread fills the belly for a day, gold buys 1,000 days. He held out half the loaf to you without looking. You took it, your chest tight with something you could not name. There was music, too soft and strange. A Roman captive plucked a stringed instrument, singing in a tongue you did not know. The melody carried sweet and sad, and for a moment the camp fell quiet, listening. Even the hardest men, their faces scarred and eyes flint sharp, sat still, caught by the voice. You thought then of the boy you had taught to ride, his laughter like this music, fragile, bright, unexpected. War had taken much, but tonight it had given something back. When the song ended, men roared their approval, clapping, stomping. The singer bowed, eyes lowered, but you saw the glimmer there, pride, perhaps, or hope. Later, when the fires burned low and bellies were full, you and your companions stretched on the grass outside your yurt. The stars spilled wide overhead, so many they seemed to press down upon you. The air was cool, but your body was warm, heavy with food, with wine, with the laughter still ringing in your ears. Remember this, Oleg said softly, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. The next hunger will come soon enough. You did not answer. You only let the moment soak into you. The bread still on your tongues, the warmth of fire on your skin, the sound of men singing, the sight of stars vast and eternal. For once, you felt not like a pawn in Attila's shadow, nor a rider bound to endless war, but simply a youth among friends, full, alive, at peace. You closed your eyes and sleep took you quickly, carrying you on dreams not of fire and ruin, but of feasts unending, laughter unbroken. For a single night, the steppe was gentle. The night was still, the fire low, and for once no laughter rose from the camps. Men lay stretched on cloaks, their breath soft in the dark, each wrapped in his own silence. You sat apart, staring into the embers. The smell of charred wood clinging to your hair and cloak. It was not hunger that gnawed at you tonight, nor the ache of the road. It was memory. The miles lay behind you like shadows, the endless grass of the Hungarian plain, the rolling hills of Gaul. The ruined cities left smoking in your wake. You could count them not by distance but by faces. You remembered Oleg, his laughter rolling like thunder, cut short on the Catalonian plains. The battle had lasted a day, yet felt like an eternity. Dust, cries, steel clashing, the ground soaked with blood. It was said that 160,000 men fell there, though who could count such a number? To you, it was only the sound of a comrade's last breath in your arms, the weight of his body as you dragged him from the melee rates, the silence that followed when he did not rise again. Torda had survived that day, though he walked with a limp from then on, his left knee stiff, his stride uneven. You could still hear his voice urging you forward, even as his own strength failed. "Ride, boy," he had said, rates. "Never stop riding." But one winter later fever took him, and the words lived only in you. You thought of Aquileia, too, rates, the great city in Italy whose walls had defied you for so long. Siege engines had battered its stones, yet the city stood, until, one morning, rates, the storks that nested on its rooftops rose in a great cloud and flew away. Men whispered it was a sign that the gods had abandoned the city, rates. Days later, the walls gave way, and the city burned. You had ridden through its empty streets, the smell of ash in your nostrils, rates, the silence of flight heavy in the air. The storks had known before any of you. And then, there had been the march to the river Po, rates, where Pope Leo himself had come to meet Attila. You had not been close enough to hear their words, but you saw them, the Bishop of Rome in white, Attila in his dark furs, the two of them face to face beneath the Italian sun. No sword was drawn, no blow struck, rates, and yet something passed between them. Soon after, Attila turned back. Some said he feared famine, others that the Pope carried divine power, rates. You only knew that it was the strangest victory you had ever seen, one born not of blood, but of words, rates. The faces of the dead lingered more strongly than the cities. You remembered the boy you had taught to ride, his eyes bright, his future short, rates. You remembered the Roman singer, whose soft voice had once filled the camp with beauty. He had not survived the long march home, rates. You remembered the nameless ones, buried in shallow graves by rivers, or left where they fell, the earth their only shroud. You wondered how many steps you had taken since that first oath in the Hungarian plain. Thousands, tens of thousands. Each one had shaped you, rates, stripped you, remade you. You were no longer the youth clutching his bow with trembling fingers. You were leaner now, harder, the lines on your face carved deep by wind and time. And yet, in the quiet moments, you still felt him inside you. The boy who feared, the boy who hoped, the boy who dreamed. The fire popped, a spark rising and dying in the air. You breathed in the smoke, sharp and dry, rates, and thought of what it meant to survive. Survival was not triumph. It was not glory, rates. It was the carrying of memory, the weight of those who had not walked as far, whose laughter no longer rose in the night, rates. You lifted your eyes to the sky. The stars were endless, cold, and indifferent. They had watched you ride from the Danube to Gaul, from Gaul to Italy, rates. And they would watch long after you were gone. They did not care for names or victories. But as you gazed at them, you felt something like peace, rates. The road ahead was short now. You could sense it, not only because Attila himself seemed restless, his health failing, rates, his feasts more desperate, but because your own bones ached, your spirit grew weary. You had lived through storms of steel and fire, and now what you longed for was rest. Still, you whispered the names. Torda, the boy, the singer, as though the stars might hold them, rates, as though the night itself might remember. The embers glowed faintly, and you drew your cloak around your shoulders, lying back upon the grass. The earth was cool beneath you, but your heart was warm with memory. You measured your journey, not by conquest, not by gold or spoils, rates, but by the lives that had touched yours, however briefly. And though many had been lost, you carried them still, rates. The night wrapped around you like a blanket, and in its quiet you felt the truth you had lived. The camp is quiet now. No clatter of arms, no hurried voices, no hoofbeats thundering into the night. Only the slow breathing of men asleep, the crackle of a low fire, rates, the sigh of the wind as it bends the long grass. You sit at its edge, cloak drawn close, and watch the sparks drift upward, rates, only to vanish into the dark. How many nights have you sat like this? Too many to count, yet tonight feels different, rates. There is no weight pressing you to rise at dawn, no anxious ear bent toward the horizon, only stillness. The smell of wood smoke lingers, rates, sweet and earthy, winding into your clothes. It clings the way memories do, faint, unshakable, both comfort and ache. You breathe it in, rates, letting it settle inside you. Once, long ago, you would have been restless here, rates. The boy you were at 17 would have counted the hours until the ride, dreamed of gold, feared the unknown. Now, you savor the quiet, rates. You know the value of a slow breath, of still hands, of the silence between heartbeats. The blanket beneath you is rough wool, rates, traded from Romans long dead. Its texture scratches at your cheek as you lie down, but it holds warmth, and that is enough. The earth beneath is cool, rates, steady, eternal. A reminder that you too belong to it in time. Above, the stars scatter like spilled grain across the sky, rates. They have guided you on endless marches across the Danube, through the plains of Gaul, to the mountains of Italy, and back again, rates. You have ridden under their light more nights than you have slept indoors, and still, they shine steady, indifferent, eternal. The river is near. You hear it faintly, a low murmur as it wins its way through reeds and stone. Its voice is soft, patient, unhurried. It does not fight its path, rates. It carries all things in time. You think of yourself as that river now, wending, steady, carrying memories with you. Not rushing, not raging, simply moving toward rest. You close your eyes, and images rise unbidden. The first bow you strung, its sinew creaking as your fingers trembled, rates. The smell of fermented mare's milk in your father's tent, sharp and sour. The laughter of Olek, the steady hand of Torda, rates. The bright eyes of the boy you taught to ride. The bread you tasted at that one feast, soft and warm, a gift from a conquered land. The voice of a Roman captive, singing under the stars. The moment when Pope Leo stood before Attila, rates. And the sword was stayed by words instead of blood. They come like footsteps behind you. Each one a part of the long road, rates. You feel no fear in them now, only gratitude, for even the hardest days, the hunger, the cold, rates, the blood-soaked fields, gave shape to who you are. Even the losses taught you how to carry love, how to remember. The wind shifts, rates, cool against your cheek. It carries the smell of grass, of soil, of ash. It feels like a hand, brushing hair from your brow, rates. Tucking you into the night, you curl deeper into your blanket, muscles loosening, rates. The ache in your bones softening as though the earth itself absorbs it. Somewhere in the camp, a horse stamps and exhales, rates. A reminder of the life that carried you farther than your feet ever could. You smile faintly, thinking of the bond between rider and steed, rates. Of the countless miles shared in silence, in trust. Your breath slows. The fire sinks low, embers glowing like small hearts against the dark, rates. You let the memories drift, not clutched, not chased, simply allowed, like sparks that rise and fade, like leaves carried by the river's song, rates. For the first time in a long time, you feel whole. The night wraps around you, not as an enemy, but as a blanket, warm and steady. You made it, rates, and now,